There's not 20 of them. No, there's only like, I think there's only four or five. Actually, I don't even know how many.
Let's all be optimistic that I'll finish Star Wars by the end of 2022.
Okay.
Hi, welcome to Enter the Bunker, where we launch you into thriving. Each week we talk about a different virtue that can be used as a building brick to build your own personal bunkers. We share personal stories, as well as tips and tricks to help you thrive instead of survive. So sit down, relax, and enter the bunker.
Hello, and welcome to Enter the Bunker. Happy New Year. This, for our Thriving Thursday, this week is optimism. So it's good to talk about how we're going to be optimistic in 2022.
Yes, 2022 is finally here.
Yep.
So it's definitely a time to be optimistic about what this year is going to bring.
Yeah.
We've certainly had the last few years have been certainly interesting.
Yeah.
But I think that there is certainly reason to be optimistic about some things in 2022. And so today, let's talk about some of the things we can think of to be optimistic about for 2022.
Yeah. Hey, Irene. Hey, Kelly. Hey, Jonathan. Okay, so things we can be optimistic about in 2022. Honestly, there's only like one topic that comes to my head right now. I'm sure you can guess. COVID.
Okay. Now we're going to get censored.
I know. What am I supposed to say? Coronavirus. Is that what you're supposed to say?
I don't know what you're supposed to say anymore.
Okay, anyways, let's just not say it.
We'll call it watermelon.
Yeah, watermelon. Anyways, Red Bull. Okay, so I guess, I don't know, the last 2 years have been crap, if you want to. Not crap. I'm always one to say, like, life's what you make it.
Right.
So I guess, I don't know. I guess I just want to go back to normal. Like,
Yeah.
I want my kids to live in a world where, well, maybe this is the new normal. I don't know. Make me be optimistic.
So you're concerned about how it's going to look in the next year
Yeah.
compared to the past few years.
Yeah.
So I think that there's reason to be optimistic because, number one, we've been doing this for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Oh,
2 years.
yeah. And so I think that what's going to happen is that we see this shift happening now in terms of it's interesting because there's two things happening. One, there's a massive vaccination effort happening around the world.
Yeah.
Right. Secondly, we're seeing cases take off to new all-time highs at the exact same time. At the same time, though, there's also people who are reassessing the whole situation because this is kind of given everybody, and I remember reading articles about this a few years ago, maybe now, about calling this the Great Pause.
Pause.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it allowed everything to stop, right? And everybody started to reassess, what were they really doing? And for some people, they just never went back to their previous careers, for example,
No.
not because of some virus, but because they just realized it wasn't meaningful enough to them anymore.
Right.
And so we're seeing this shift of people having this sort of analytical kind of world where it's like, oh, I got to work, I got to hustle, I got to do this, I got to do that.
Yeah.
And then not really having much meaning to it, to where everything stopped. And it's just like, you know what? Life is short. There's only so much I'm going to be able to do. I'd rather have something that's more meaningful. And then people actually shifting the way they live. So now people are becoming more conscious in terms of how they eat and in terms of how they live and being healthy. And the whole thing with the mandates and everything else that have been thrusted on everybody
Yeah.
is that it's actually had people push back on
Right.
those things to be like, no, wait a minute, I need to be able to be more healthy. I need to be able to, we need to be able to live,
Yeah.
And so there's these two things that are kind of like opposing forces that are happening. And it's happening, it's interesting because there's actually, there's a portion there's like about 30% of the population that's just like totally like engrossed in the fear
Right.
of the whole thing.
Yeah, they're
right.
truly scared.
Yeah, and so they hang on everything that comes through the TV, everything that comes through all the releases from the government. They hang on every word, and they're terrified.
Yeah.
So we got about 30% of the people that are hanging on that. 40% are really in the middle.
Okay.
Like they're just kind of like they're going with wherever the whole group is
Herd.
going to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's kind of
yeah,
like a
yeah.
herd
Group.
mentality, right?
Yeah.
So if the 30% look like they're the majority, then that 40% are going to go with it.
Right. And then you're at 70.
But then there's the other 30%
30%.
who are saying, I'm going to have none of this,
Yeah.
right? And so then they're not necessarily dominating the airwaves and looking like they're the ones that are dominating. So most of the people are going with the fear.
Right.
But as we continue to do that, we're becoming desensitized to that fear.
Right.
And so as we go forward, more people are just like, wait a minute, this isn't making sense. I don't understand. Like this is no
They're
longer.
becoming not scared.
Yeah, they're becoming not scared. Yeah, and so then now it's starting to, it's allowing people to actually become more aware of themselves in terms of like, where do I fit in all this, right? Is this really like where I want to go in my life, right? So I think in 2022, you're going to see what some people have referred to as an awakening
Okay.
of sorts, where people are kind of like getting out of this whole like, I'm just going to go about my life sort of thing, to where like, no, I need to be doing something more meaningful. And I think that the way that this whole society is going is not the right way. And I just need to find my own path.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that 2022 is going to be almost a hallmark year for that. And that's something to be optimistic about, because it takes tragedies. It takes real, sometimes it takes it takes pressure, to create a diamond. Right. And in similar form, the human spirit needs to be able to actually like have tests and difficulties in their lives
Yeah.
in order to actually grow from that.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So even just like,
I always say I learned the hard way.
yeah. Yeah.
Always.
So just even think of a seed, right?
Yeah.
Like think of it like a seed is planted in the ground. It's deep underground. It's like you'd think like, okay, you got no hope of living. It's like actually it has to burrow through.
Yeah.
It has to burrow through all that earth, and then that is when it actually discovers its purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Grows a fruit, vegetable, blooms, whatever it may
Yeah.
be.
Whatever it's been designed to do. So in similar fashion, like people are very similar in that, and it's like it's just the way creation works. So I think optimistically speaking, that I think that people are going to grow out of this.
Yeah.
And there's going to be more appreciation for things than I think people have had in the past. I think people are moving away from the materialism that really engrossed people's lives in the past. And now they're looking for something that's going to be more meaningful to them. It's actually like a want, like there's always been like the idea of like meeting material needs.
Yeah.
But now people are interested in like meeting meaningful needs. Like they now see having meaning in what they do being a need.
Yeah.
Versus in the past, it was just like, oh, that's just fluff. Oh, you just say, that's not what's important.
Yeah.
But now it's like, no, now that's front and center to what's important. And it's actually, if you look at the economic signals
Yeah.
that have happened over the course of like even the last 10 years, there's been a shifting of that, where there's more and more demand for meaningful experiences and meaningful things in the way that they do things. Even when you look at the environmental movement, right? The reason why people do that is because they feel like they have a greater meaning to saving the world from climate change and this kind of thing. And so that's why people are gravitating towards these ideas.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think this year is going to be a hallmark year for that to see that coming out more and more. You're going to see
I
people
feel like I've already
speaking
started
it out.
to see it.
Yeah.
Like the last year. So now it's just going to get more and more.
Yeah, there's going to be a
That 40% is going to start to go this way.
well, what you're going to see, I think, is that the 40% are starting to see the 30% become much more vocal.
Yeah.
Right. And so now there's an awareness that, wait a minute, these ideas of having greater meaning and not living in fear and things like this are something we can all, like this is something, so that is what a lot of people are doing. And I see the comments all the time of people saying like, oh, I'm so glad, I've heard like I've heard you guys say this, because I always thought these things.
Right.
But nobody was, so
Nobody
they felt
said it.
alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course,
You
in
hear
a
people
world,
say that all the time.
yeah, and in a world where you've been taught to be isolated,
Yeah.
then, and because of social media and the way it's been designed, a lot of people feel alone. So it makes a very prime place for being able to cause a lot of people to be able to live in fear very easily.
Yes.
So now you have this, now they're kind of flipping the table using the same technology
Yeah.
to say you're not alone,
Yeah.
and there's actually other people that are actually, wanting to grow out of this
Yeah.
and get out of this. And so more and more people are discovering that. And so there's this shifting happening with that 40%, like you
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
where they're saying, wait a minute, there is another majority. And so it's almost like it's like taking away from that majority before. And now it's just shifting in another direction.
Yeah.
Where it ends, we'll have to see. But the truth is that the further you go, I believe entirely that there's no way you even look at history.
Yeah.
The human spirit is indomitable. Like, we've had tyrants and dictators all throughout the years try to,
Yeah.
but they ultimately fail.
Right.
So in the end, you have to be optimistic
Yeah.
that it's like the human spirit is going to prevail over whatever types of things that might happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be a pandemic, whether it's going to be an economic
I like
meltdown.
that human spirit. I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know where you got that from, but kind of just, I don't know. It's just made me like, oh, it touched my soul. It did. It's like, because it's like the human spirit. Like, we got this. We got this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
I've been talking a lot, so I'm just wondering what the chat's saying about
Yeah,
this now.
I was kind of reading in between you talking. So Shelby says, COVID taught my family how to spend more time together. And then Michael also said, COVID taught me to make the most of any situation. It would have been very easy to wallow in self-pity and lament, Michael, big words, lament the lockdowns, but instead I made the best of it. That's great. Shelby had said something else, I think. Just fresh air, actually seeing the outdoors and taking it all in. The sounds, the colors, true appreciation.
Right.
Yes.
So that, again, lends to what I said about being optimistic, is
Yeah.
that look at all the experiences people have had.
Yeah.
It's helped them build the building bricks.
Yeah.
Right. So the further this goes, the more that you put pressure on people, the greater that human spirit has to prevail.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it could, like Michael said, he said, like, he could have just like wallowed in self-pity,
Yeah.
or he could have turned it around and made the best of it.
Yeah.
And that's what he ultimately chose to do eventually, right?
Yeah.
Or
I feel like
maybe
you have to do that. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just I mean, take your half a day and wallow in your self-pity. Like, you do need that, but then you need to snap out of it and like get back into it, I feel like.
Yeah, it's almost like a rubber band effect.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that the problem is that, again, because of social media and because we've been isolated so much, it just made it that much more difficult.
Yeah.
So now, though, it's becoming more difficult to even enforce these isolation measures,
Yeah.
right? So they've taken things like, oh, you have to go into isolation for 14 days, and they realize now, guess what? The human spirit isn't going to allow that.
No.
So now they're saying, you can go for 5 days now.
Yeah.
So then it's like, it's all because they can't put that on people, right? And
Too
so
hard
because
on
of that,
it.
yeah, and so that they know they can't keep on pressing too far, and so that's what happens. But it's the thing is that it's all done in small steps.
I was just going to say that. Like, you
know?
don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's all done in
like
very small
blind.
steps, and before you know it,
blind.
suddenly the whole world has changed, and you didn't even see it, right? Because it's done so slowly. It's done over the course of years.
It's like watching a child grow when you haven't,
Yeah, and
like
then,
when you live with them every day.
and what do you say? You go, oh my gosh, it seems like yesterday he was like
Yeah.
doing this, this, and this, and it's like it's the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
only when it's happening societally,
Yeah.
where there's like these mandates that are changing this, or there's these activities that are happening, or the economy, there's like all these moves happening, and suddenly there's like 80% of the money supply has been dumped into the economy.
Yeah.
What happens is, like, a lot of people don't even understand what happens when that happens, but
Right.
then this is all happening, and when these things happen, though, I just said happen probably 10 times in the last minute, you end up with a situation that you either excel out of, like, you're either gonna have a system where you are gonna have a system that has to change, right? And where it goes and changing is what matters.
Yes.
There's two opposing forces. And I say this all the time as it relates to blockchain,
Yeah.
right? Because I believe that we're in a technological age. And
Definitely.
what we're witnessing now is the use of technology in order to control the masses,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And this has been happening in small ways
Right.
as we continue on with technological advances.
Yeah.
But that's always been with the understanding that we have freedom, right? I think that as we've furthered in these technological advancements, we've now got these systems that are so centralized, that hold so much authority over the way we live and our lives,
Yeah.
that they are now trying to push further.
Right.
But there's other systems that have emerged recently, like blockchain and cryptocurrencies, which don't give central authority to anybody.
Yeah.
And instead of pushing further to be able to control people's lives, they're creating systems that allow people to be able to actually gain more freedom
Yeah.
and have control over their own lives, right?
Yeah.
Versus somebody trying to press, right? This is why I'm optimistic also.
Yeah.
Because I see these as two forces that are happening in the world right now.
Yeah.
Now, of course, what are we doing every day? We're working on this side
Yeah.
where we're building these new blockchain networks, and we're creating this infrastructure to enable it so that people have the choice, right? And they can take control of their own lives. Meanwhile, there's this other systems that are being pushed forward,
Yeah.
and we're simply going to just let them do their own thing. We just simply need to allow people to be able to have the choice, to be able
Have the
to
choice.
do something else and take control if they want to,
If they want to. Yeah.
right? So I see this as, again, another reason to be optimistic, is that we're seeing an emergence of technology now. It's going to be a matter of, what do we want? Like, what kind of future do we want to build?
Yeah.
Do we want more authoritarianism? Do we want more, more basically where we're being controlled by a technocracy, so to speak,
Yeah.
right? Or do we want to have systems actually serving us to be able to build better lives for our families and
Yes.
to where we can determine for ourselves?
Yeah.
But, so these are two opposing forces that are happening now. And again, the 30, 40, 30 altogether, they're kind of swaying.
But,
And eventually there's going to be, I think that the 30% who are just having none of it,
Yeah.
the people who are awakening and looking to improve,
yeah.
they're going to gravitate as much as they can towards these systems of freedom.
Yeah.
And as long as there's enough there to support them, then this whole kind of economic ecosystem develops.
Yeah.
The ones that want to have the totalitarianism,
Yeah.
right? That system is continuing to try to put the screws on this one
Mm-hmm.
because it threatens it, right?
Right.
So this is why things like Bitcoin have now been outright banned in like 8 countries around the world now,
Yeah, that's
including
crazy.
China, right? So,
Crazy.
and it's funny because they put out these bans and there's nothing they can do,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, they can't stop the people from using Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
yeah.
the whole point.
Yeah.
But they do that as a show of force. Again, like it's a way of
Control.
yeah, it's a war measure. It's a way for them to use violence essentially, so that they can take power.
Yeah.
So that process is happening, and you see that happening in many ways in order to create this authoritarian economy.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this other system. And so I think that for me, I'm optimistic that the system is going to go towards the system of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that system is going to continue to live on. Or like, think of it almost like Star Wars. I know you hate that because you've never seen Star Wars. but Star Wars is really almost like an example of this, where you have the Empire, like the authoritarianism,
yeah.
right? And so they think that by bringing order to the universe, that there will be peace. And of course, what's up behind all that is the power, right? And that's what they really want,
Yeah.
right? Meanwhile, what are the rebels doing? The rebels want to provide freedom to everybody because they believe everybody should have a right to be able to live their lives how they want to.
How they want to.
And there should be discussion, and there should be sort of a democracy per se of how they live.
Right.
Although I personally don't think democracy is the end all be all of the way things should be. I think that there's more evolutionary ways for us to be able to arrive at decisions,
Right.
Which, as you know, is something I'm working on in blockchain as well. So regardless, so those are some of the things that I'm optimistic about.
I I understood all of that, and I was on the same page the entire time, which I like. Shelby says, technology is, and always will be the future. Also says, systems of freedom. I love that. The people will prevail.
Yeah.
Okay, this week's taps. Watch Star Wars, girl.
You've got Disney Plus. I know that.
I know.
Okay, you can do it.
I don't know. Like, yes, Kelly, watch Star Wars. Isn't there like, where do you start? Isn't there like 20 of them?
There's not 20 of them. No, there's only I think there's only four or five. Actually, I don't even know how many.
Let's all be optimistic that I'll finish Star Wars by the end of 2022.
Okay. And if you take in at least one or two
Do you
Star
think
Wars,
I'll physically actually enjoy it? Not physically,
I
but
think you'll
actually enjoy it.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try it. It's worth a try, right?
Yeah.
All right.
What kind of movies do you like anyway? I don't even know.
I don't know. I like anything really.
Okay, do you like action?
Yeah.
Okay, there's lots of action.
Yeah.
Do you like
Actually, I think my favorite movies are probably like the movies that are set back in the olden days, like Thor and not Thor, like 300, like the movie 300,
Okay.
like those types of movies. Those are
Okay.
probably my favorite.
Well, Star Wars does take place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So, but they are a little bit more technologically advanced than the 300. So,
Okay. Okay. Well,
but they do use lightsabers.
yeah, that is exciting. I would like to learn about that or watch that. Okay, that is our show for this Thriving Thursday. Our building brick was optimism. And we're going to finish it off saying goodbye, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Enter the Bunker. Make sure to follow us on Instagram where you can share your story and also look at behind the scenes of how we make our podcast. You can watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube by simply searching Enter the Bunker. Tune in next time as we launch into thriving.